Welcome to the Wrestling Universe channel. My name is Cosk, and today I am reviewing the 10th August 2023 edition of Impact Wrestling. This is the first solo review I'm doing of Impact. There were scheduling issues, so I have to do it solo. Usually Hakeem joins me every Friday, or any other special guest we have. And this was a really good episode, especially one to review solo. I was a bit worried to review an episode solo because you have to talk for so long, but man, I can talk about this episode all day. Like, there's a lot of really good stuff. And before we jump into it, I want to talk about some news that dropped yesterday. Team 3D, Bully Ray and Devon have been announced for Impact 1000. Bully Ray, a regular in the company. Devon has not been seen in 2012, 2013. It's been a very long time. Maybe 2014, 2015, right before his WWE return in 2015, so I believe 2014. And yeah, I think it's a really cool get for Impact 1000. They're really going all out in Impact 1000, which is something I really wanted them to do. They've announced Awesome Kong, they've announced The Beautiful People, minus Madison Rayne because she's in AEW. And now Team 3D. First off, I want to talk about how I'm curious what they're going to do with Team 3D, in the sense that Bully Ray is established on the TV show. He's this like massive heel. So are they going to go the ECW route of Team 3D, where Devon's also a massive prick, or are they going to have tension between them? Maybe Bully Ray takes out Devon, then Actually, I'm going to say that for later. Somebody who we see later on the show comes out for the save. And for 2, I'm really curious about what's next. Like, who is coming next? The first name that comes to mind to me is James Storm. I think James Storm, he's an essential for this show. He's a free agent. He's a legend in this company, a future Hall of Famer for sure, so why the hell not? Maybe you can have him with America's Most Wanted with Chris Harris, or maybe solo. I think there's also Amazing Red would be pretty cool. Maybe you can work something else with AEW and bring in a Christopher Daniels, for example. So I'm really excited for Impact 1000. I feel like they can do a lot of really special stuff, and I can't wait for that show. But to talk about this episode of Impact, great episode for one, and it started off with a bang. We kick off with the tag title tournament with ABC, Chris Bay and Ace Austin, versus Callihan and Swann. These two teams produced, I'm not going to say cinema because that term has been overused. They produced gold. I mean, just like talking about some of the spots in the match, there was this beautiful cactus pile driver on the apron, which the traditionalist in me, which is weird because I'm pretty young, so I shouldn't have like traditionalist values when it comes to wrestling, but I still do. I thought that should have ended the match, or at least ended, I believe it was Ace Austin for the rest of the match, but like he got up like a minute or two later, which, you know, isn't my cup of tea, but hey, modern wrestling for you. And modern wrestling still has the advantages like, you know, the athleticism you get from the likes of Chris Bay, Ace Austin, and Rich Swann, which you got in this match. And like, they were really going for the athletic moves and the kicks and all of that, whereas Sami Callihan was just trying to rock the boat, just like lay people out with brutal strikes. So it was really this nice mix of athleticism, and the stiff striking from Callihan. There's also this really nice spot in the match where ABC were going for that leaping cutter, where Ace Austin kind of pushes Bay into a cutter onto the other guy, but Callihan caught Bay with a chicken wing, which I thought was a fantastic reversal. These two teams really left it all out there. It was back and forth action. They did a really good job. The finish, however, I wasn't a big fan of. The good hand would interfere, start attacking people. Then Swann was fight, I believe it was Jason Hodge, to the like out of the building, or not out of the building, but like out of the what do you call it? Like he fought into the backstage area, and then in the ring, John Skyler took out a one member of ABC. I don't really remember who. I have Dory memory, and Callihan would not see it. He'd hit the pile driver, and he'd get the win. I feel like you should have just had a clean finish for this match. I get that they're kind of trying to keep ABC strong. I've seen on Twitter Chris Bay alluded to the fact that maybe the Rascals paid off the good hands, which could be the reasoning. But we get a lot of dirty finishes on this show, and I feel like for such a good match, just a clean win would have been pretty cool for Callihan and Swann. Or if the Rascals are planning to win this, then maybe ABC should have won, and you do ABC versus the Rascals. I feel like you kind of have this match like happen at the end of the tournament. But that's just me. Overall, pretty good stuff. A really good opener. Impact is really good at opening their shows with like fun action, and this was really fun action. Big fan of everybody in this match. I mean, Callihan, he's one of the faces of the Anthem era of Impact, with Swann, former world champion, could be a world champion again. I'm really interested to see if Callihan and Swann advance. I'm liking their stuff as a tag team. I feel like they were quite lost for a while, and now that they're attacking, they're really starting to pick it up. Like, you really feel like what's next for them is going to be big. And I'm excited, man. I'm really, really excited. Personally, like, just a prediction before we move on, I do think that Callihan and Swann are going to move on to the final and to the match with Subculture, because I think ABC are going to interfere in the Rascals match. And yeah, I think Callihan and Swann versus Subculture could be some really good stuff. But we move on. Santino is backstage, and he's talking about how he's finally at peace. He's drinking some sort of drink. And then the Coven come in, and they're like, why are the Shotterage getting a shot and not us? We beat Trinity and Deonna Purrazzo. We have a contractual rematch against the tag champions. We're on fire. Why aren't we in this match? And Santino's a bit stumped. He's like, you have a good point. Then the Death Dolls come in, and usually I'm not really a fan of what the Death Dolls do, but I feel like it was a good enough of wackiness to feel kind of wholesome instead of not forced, but just kind of meh. I think forced is the right term, whereas they're just trying to be wacky and it doesn't really come across legit, but this just felt kind of wholesome. I feel like Havoc and Courtney Rush especially did a really good job. And they were like, we should get this shot because we're awesome. Santino was like, that's not a good reason. They do the whole arm-on-arm thing. Santino comes in, gives them a reason, which is they have a win over the Shotterage and their former Knockouts Tag Champions. They give that reason. Santino accepts. They're not really accepts, but he's like, that's a good point too. Then MK Ultra come in and they accept and say, we'll take on everyone. So it's official. It's going to be the Coven versus the Death Dolls versus MK Ultra versus the Shotterage. I think MK Ultra has to defend here. Like that's a given. They have to defend. They just won the titles. I feel like they're a breath of fresh air in the Knockouts tag scene. When it comes to this segment, I feel like everybody did their part. Santino, sometimes he's a bit too goofy for me, but I feel like he works. He's a fairly entertaining character. I'm a fan of Santino. Like, he kind of crosses the line sometimes, but he's like this kind of comedy character / straight man where he's supposed to be relatable in some ways, the way he like is kind of in this wacky world, but at the same time he's also wacky himself. It's strange, but I feel like it works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't, where he's trying to be like this Santino comedy character, but sometimes he's also trying to be this super serious authority figure. And in this case it works, sometimes it doesn't, but yeah, I'm overall good stuff. I feel like everyone played their part well. The Dead Dolls, I feel, are starting to really get into this role, and like at first I wasn't really a big fan of it. It just felt like Impact were trying to keep them fresh, which was a good thing, but like personally I wasn't a big fan of the story. But yeah, I mean, like I think the story here is really good. I feel like the characters here are really good, and I think the match is going to be fun. I think maybe this is Impact's way of like pushing along these matches where if it's a multi-man, you can have rematches in the future because these are like D4 tag teams in the division. And you can have a team get pinned, maybe the Dead Dolls. I don't think losses really affect them. And then you can have the Coven continue their stuff with Trinity. You can have another match with the Shotterage. Then the Coven can come back in and face MK Ultra. Eventually you can do the Dead Dolls again. So yeah, these four teams, I feel like they're going to be facing off against each other a lot in the future. And yeah, good stuff overall. We move on to Bhupinder Gunjar versus Dirty Dango. Dango does his usual I hate professional wrestling thing at the start. I'm a fan of Gunjar. Like this match, it was alright. It wasn't anything crazy. I mean, like fairly solid stuff, but very mid-card. Gunjar, I think he can be someone, but he's kind of at this level right now where it's a bit hard to care about what he does because he doesn't really get these like investing characters, like arcs or investing storylines. He just has like decent to good matches, and you can kind of tell he has potential. But I feel like Gunjar is going to become a big star, but like years and years in the future. I feel like his time isn't now. And you can kind of tell that by Dango getting the victory here. Not too much to say about the action. It was very, for lack of a better term, very mid-card Impact type stuff. Like, it wasn't for the Digital Media Championship, but like the type of action you would expect in like a digital Media Championship style division match. Because these two, that's the title they're kind of eyeing. Like if they were to go for any title, that's it. They're part of the Digital Media title division. Dango would use or Alpha Bravo would use the flashlight to distract Gunjar, and Dango has hit like a really weak looking finisher, this kind of like Sting's Scorpion Death Drop on like this reverse DDT on Gunjar. I don't think it looked very good. I don't think he pulled it off very well, and he got the tree, which surprised me because despite the interference, I didn't think that was a good enough move to kind of put away Gunjar. Jake Something wouldn't come out after Dango started talking trash about professional wrestling, and he started saying, "Hey, I fought so hard to come back into this company, and all I see is you trashing it. If you hate this company so much, then just leave, or I'm gonna make you." So there's tension between them. Dango leaves the ring. Alpha Bravo and Jake Something get into a confrontation. Dango comes back in the ring, tries to attack Something, but Something turns around, hits him straight in the face, and stands tall. I mean, yeah, this was good stuff, I feel. I'm a fan of Jake Something. I'm a big fan of Jake Something. Talk about world champion potential. I feel like he could be a world champion tomorrow, and it would be fun. Well, he shouldn't, because you need to build, but when it comes to him as like a wrestler, he can. Like if he gets good character work and like a good build, he could be a world champion one day. And I feel like he's on that trajectory where big things are coming for him. Like it's kind of, I remember when Steve Macklin was getting his push when he first came into the company, and it's kind of the same vibe that I get where you can tell big things are coming for Jake Something, which is really cool. When it comes to the Dango feud, they've been building Dango up pretty well. I think he has a good character. So, yeah, I think if the direction for this is Something getting a win over Dango in like this mini 1 month to 1 month and a half feud, then I feel that this could be good stuff. Dango, he's a great character right now. I feel like he's doing some solid work. I feel a win over him would mean something for Jake Something. Yeah, good stuff overall. I think this could lead to some solid mid-card action. We move on. Diener is cutting a promo on Eric Young. He talks about how he hasn't failed, but people have failed him, and they've just betrayed him. Sami Callihan getting into the design and destroying it from within wasn't because of Diener's failures, it was because of Callahan's betrayal. Same for Alan Angels leaving, and same for Eric Young coming back. He talks about how Big Con is like this monster, this indestructible monster that he's turned into one, which I guess works, but at the same time I don't really want to see Big Con on my TV in 2023, especially considering his first appearance was dropping to Josh Alexander in 10 seconds. And since then, it's like, it's hard to take him serious as like this indestructible monster when we've seen him in such a vulnerable state. So I don't know, I feel Big Con could be someone, but it's gonna take time. He has a good look, he has good size, he's a decent wrestler, nothing special, but he's alright. I feel like he would have been in a better position if he never came from the WWE. Because him being known as this kind of WWE jobber who is being pushed as this monster now, despite his size, looks goofy. If he was like this unknown guy who came in with his size and his look, people would like him a lot more. But, you know, it is what it is. I feel bad for Colin in that sense, but it's really hard to get invested in a guy who you just know as one half of a jobber tag team in the WWE. Which, you know, isn't necessarily fair. Like, it's not fair that you're kind of placeboed in this place due to your work in another company, but it's just kind of how it is. Like, this is a very reputation-based business. Your aura matters a lot, and Big Con's aura was really hit hard by his WWE run, and it's going to take a while for him to really get going as this monster. When it comes to this promo, I feel like Diener did a good job. I feel like Diener, not a big fan of him in the ring, but I feel like he's a good promo. I think he has good facial expressions. I feel like this role works for him. The design has been kind of dying out, but maybe this is what Big Con needs. Like, Diener specifically managing him, I think could be something cool. Like, kind of building him up, because he did like make Big Con seem a bit more important than he usually does. And if he puts more focus on Big Con specifically, I feel like he could become someone. Diener as his manager, maybe. I don't think that's the direction, because they did announce Eric Young versus Big Con for next week. So presumably Big Con's going to lose that match, and it's going to lead to Diener versus Eric Young, which is, you know, the bigger match. So I'm not like opposed to it, but after this feud, I feel like the direction should be Diener taking an outside of the ring approach, and Big Con, you kind of build him up, maybe give him a good character other than just the guy in the design, the only other guy in the design. But yeah, I mean, solid stuff overall. This episode so far has been pretty, I've said a lot, but pretty solid. There's been really good stuff going on. And we move on to a Johnny Swinger promo. Swinger's talking to Gia Miller. Miller asks Swinger about his win against Zicky Dice. Swinger says who, so he's kind of ignoring the existence of Zicky Dice now, which, you know, breaks the heart. But it's both funny and kind of sad, because I really like their work. But at the same time, Swinger just being this carny piece of crap is it's really enjoyable, like, side characters. Like, no matter what's happening in Impact, you kind of have this guy pulling off these like wacky tricks to try and get ahead of the business. It's a fun character. I'm a big fan of Johnny Swinger. I think he's a unique presence on the show, and one of the few times where comedy really works for me on Impact. Kenny King then comes out, and he seemingly also kind of pushes the idea that he may be going after Alex Shelley too. He says Alex Shelley is the world champion, but he's the internet champion, or the digital media championship, which means the internet championship. We're going to do some Steiner maths here, which then means the internet goes to satellite, the galaxy, the universe. He's the champion of the universe. Roman Reigns, eat your heart out. So I usually like this whole everyone going after the champ thing, but at the same time, I feel like a champion should just focus on their title. So like it's interconnected, which I like, but everyone taking shots at Alex Shelley and Alex Shelley just being kind of cool with it. Not a big fan of. It's a minor complaint. It's not like something that will keep me up at night or something. But yeah, I don't know. Like this segment was alright for what it was. Probably the weakest on the show so far, but nothing bad. It was just alright, decent stuff. Swinger seemingly getting a world title match eventually, or maybe this was to lead to Swinger versus Kenny King in a match where Swinger researches what the internet is and then is like, wow, I want that title instead. So yeah, pretty decent segment. I feel like Kenny King is really going to help the prestige of the Digital Media Championship. Joe Hendry really held that title, and I feel like Kenny King is going to help continue to elevate it. He's aced everything he's done so far in this run. And yeah, we move on to Alisha Edwards versus Jody Trett. I'm just gonna take a drink before this because my voice is killing me. And I have to talk about this match now. So let's get to this match. I mean, oh man. This was it wasn't very good, I'll be honest. It wasn't like painfully bad. I like Jody Trett. Alisha Edwards is fine in small doses, but this was definitely the weakest thing on the show for me. I feel like both need like a great wrestler to kind of carry them to a good match, and the match just kind of lacked that, not psychology, but this like leader, this ring general to really make it like go from meh to solid. Like this was a match you'd see on BTI, and not like one of the good matches on the BTI, like one of the matches you'd skip on BTI. So like when I was watching this, it was like hard to pay attention really. Jody Trett would get the win thanks to Kazarian coming out to prevent Eddie Edwards from interfering. So you know, fun little ending, like kind of combining those stories, and a good win for Jody Trett. I do think Trett has potential, as negative as I am on this match. But yeah, I mean, not a good match in my opinion. Like not much to say about it. Just wasn't my cup of tea. Alisha Edwards. I'm not a big fan of Alisha. Like nothing against her personally. I'm sure she's a great person. But I'm not a fan of her promo work. I'm not a fan of her wrestling. I feel like maybe she could get that Dominic heat or something, or at least as much as you can with the audience Impact has, because you don't have like thousands of people there. But if she can like find out something that works and just get like people to boo her like crazy, then I feel like that would be like what's best for her. And I do think this Tracy Brooks program is gonna lead to good stuff. But yeah, I mean, not a great match, and it feels like this match was more so to set up the post-match, which was Frankie Kazarian accidentally hitting Alisha Edwards with the kendo stick while aiming for Eddie. This was interesting. I feel like I don't really know the direction here, because maybe it's just to add like extra heat or something, but I don't know, like the direction seems to be Tracy and Kazarian versus Eddie and Alisha, so I feel like what's the point of this? Like, I'm not gonna complain because this is very wait and see thing. I just don't really know what to predict what's next, which could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. Maybe this leads to really solid stuff. So yeah, it was interesting, I'll say that. I'm curious to see what's next. I feel like I can't predict what's next, like which is good. I know that the Tracy return is probably coming. You'd have to assume so with the way commentary is talking and everything, and the way Alisha is talking about Tracy. They're not going to make her look like a coward and just never have her come back. She is going to come back, so you have to assume that match is happening. How they get to point A to point B, I'm not sure. We'll have to wait to see. We move on. Deonna Purrazzo it's a backstage segment and she's talking about Kylan King. She's like, congratulations. You beat the Virtuosa and next week I want to match with you. She calls out Trinity, says, you watch this match because this is going to be just a glimpse of what I'm going to do to you at Emergence. So again, pretty good stuff, nothing special, but just setting up a fun match. Probably we're going to get her win back, which is expected. I don't like the fact that the number one contender to the tag titles is going to lose right before the pay-per-view or the Impact Plus event, but I mean, I also like the fact that Impact's interconnected, so it's like very conflicting because I want to complain about at the same time with something I like. There's different ways they can do it though, right? Like they can make the company interconnected without having challengers to championships get beaten by someone not in the program. So I don't know. But we move on to Mike Bailey versus Kushida. This was incredible. If you're watching this review and you have not watched the episode, if there's one thing I could recommend from this episode, it would be this. There was a lot of really good limb work in this match, like Kushida would work on the arm of Bailey, he'd work on the leg. There was some really nice looking kicks by Bailey per usual. And this was a fantastic match. I think the story of it was really trades between submissions. Kushida trying to weaken Bailey by attacking his limbs, going for that armbar or whatever it's called. Like, I forgot the exact name of his finisher, but it's like this armbar. Who is on my tongue? Again, I have a Dory memory. I don't know how Excalibur does it, where he can just like name these moves I've never heard of in my life, but I could not be an announcer at a wrestling show for the life of me because I would just say, what a maneuver every 5 seconds. But yeah, really, really good action. These two are some of the best in Impact. Kushida is someone Impact really highly regards as one of their own. Like, he is, for lack of a better term, he is this main event wrestler for Impact. Like, every time they bring him in, he's in the main event. Every time they bring him in, he is one of the top guys there. So, yeah, I mean, solid stuff. Gets an A+ from me. The best match on the card. And I'm excited to see what's next. Kushida would get the win, by the way, like, which is obvious. He's going for Leo Rush's title, so not really surprising there. And yeah, really fun stuff. I recommend watching this if you haven't. Mike Bailey, I feel like with the right character, could be one of the top stars in this company. And yeah, really fun stuff. We move on to something I found really interesting, which was the Crazy Steve sit-down interview. Steve would cut a promo about how his friends have left him, how Taurus is kind of moving on, how Rosemary and Havoc are no longer there, and how it's now Courtney Rush and Jessica, and talked about how he's dealt with blindness his entire career. It's not a career, his entire life, really. And yeah, man, like, this was fantastic. This was the most I've cared about Crazy Steve. I'm going to have to keep it a buck probably ever. Yeah, he did a really good job here. Like, genuinely, really, really good job. I feel like you felt for Crazy Steve. There was this sympathy for Steve, which he's usually just this like wacky character who does like goofy shenanigans, but like this was like putting heart into Steve. Like, this is why you should care about him, not as a wrestler, but as a person. So yeah, I feel like this could lead to really fun stuff. It's part 1 of 3. There was a to be continued where he was about to talk about his family. And I'm excited to see what's next. I feel like the best case scenario is maybe with the story they do here, you could have like a really good singles run, like a singles upper mid card run. Maybe not main event, but he could be a pretty good upper mid-carder with this type of character. And it's pretty solid in the ring too. Against like heels like, I don't know, Jonathan Gresham, Dirty Dango, Bully Ray, although I don't know how many people want to see a Bully Ray versus Crazy Steve match. Moose, I think Moose versus Steve could be fun. Like these type of names, I think you could do some good stuff here. We move on next to a throwback to Subculture, like this video of Subculture beating this tag team in the UK for the title, and then a promo where they're talking about a world tour and how they're keeping their eyes on the tag title tournament here. So it seems the Subculture story is going to be, we will fight everyone. It doesn't matter if you're in Impact, it doesn't matter if it's even in Impact, we're going to fight you, we're going to beat you. And yeah, I feel like Subculture could have a really good run here. They've been a great addition to the company. I'm a big fan of Mark Andrews. I'm getting like quite acclimated to Flash there, Morgan Webster, I believe that's his name. I haven't really seen his work before, but I'm a fan of it. Like they've had really good matches with the likes of ABC. They're a very fun tag team. And yeah, the tag division in Impact is really starting to get more names like added to it. And speaking of that, we would have, I was really confused when the segments first started. Let's get into it. There were like these two people we've never seen before talking about something. I don't even know what. I think maybe someone cheated on the other. The like woman cheated on the man or something. Then he said say his name and Joe Hendry appears. Then Hendry says say his name and Yuya Uemura appears. The other two leave. And Joe Hendry and Yuya start talking. Joe Hendry's mad at Yuya. Yuya simply says champions, and Joe Hendry talks himself into going for the tag titles with Yuya. So yeah, I mean, once again, solid stuff. I'm a big fan of Yuya Uemura. I am. Like, if the rumors are true that he's not going back to New Japan, I feel like he could be, I say world champion a lot here, but he could be one of the faces of your company. Like, he is someone who is associated with, like, the Reiwa Three Musketeers, like, the people who are going to be the next top guys in New Japan. So having someone who could have been, like, one of the new Naitos or Okadas or Tanahashis or Shibatas or, you know, these type of names, like one of the new versions of them in your company, like the next big thing in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you could have a big star in your hand. So I feel like they have to be eyeing Yuya for that. I feel that tag team with Joe Hendry is a really interesting touch. I was surprised because I expected Hendry to go after the main event scene. Maybe not the world title because it's quite stacked right now, but maybe start to acclimate himself in the main event scene. But yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining at all. I feel like this could be really fun stuff. I feel like they work well together. And I feel like this is a really good direction for Yuya Uemura, who Impact are starting to finally give the ball to. Like, he's really coming into his own here. And yeah, I feel these two could be future tag champions. Hopefully not anytime soon, because I'm quite liking this whole Subculture thing that's going on, but maybe in like 3 to 6 months they could be tag champions, and the general doesn't go to the likes of Callihan and Swann. Or the Rascals. Actually, the Rascals should be ahead of them. Like, if I were to rank, it would be Subculture, Rascals, and then we have Hendry and Yuya, which then means like maybe 6-7 months down the line, so it's going to take quite a while for them to get the titles, but this could be the start of something really special. I think they work well together. I think they have great chemistry, and they're like just like fun-loving, fan-favorite tag team, so no complaints over here. Before we get into the main event, I'm going to take another drink because my throat is talking non-stop for 35 minutes, especially when you only do one takes, it's dedication, man. But it's fun. It's just a lot on the throat. So we have Team Bully versus Team Taurus. It's going to be Samuray Del Sol's in-ring debut, or at least seemingly so, against Bully Ray, Moose, and Myers teaming with Taurus and Laredo Kid. However, Leo Rush would attack Samurai Del Sol before the match happened. So it was a 2 versus 3. Very interesting to see Black Taurus and Laredo Kid main event the show, but I'm not complaining. I am a huge Black Taurus fan. I feel like if Impact can get him on more dates, he could be like the next Samoa Joe in the X division, especially if he were to turn heel. I'm a massive fan of Black Taurus, so I think him in the main event position was very cool to me. But yeah, like the match itself, I feel like it never went into second gear. And the reason I think it never went into second gear is because the match was really just a setup. For one, to give Moose Myers and Bully a win. And for two, for the post-match, we're going to talk about that later. But overall, when it comes to the match, like pretty good action, but like not great. I think Bayley versus Kushida could have been a better main event, to be honest. But hey, like that's just me. Maybe ABC versus Callihan and Swann if the interference didn't happen. Because this match never hit second gear. This match was quite like weirdly slotted into the main event scene. But overall, like solid stuff, pretty average. To be honest, there's not really much to say. Bully, Ray, Moose, and Myers aren't known for being work rate guys. Although Moose can really bring it up to that level if he wants to, like his matches with Swann, for example. Taurus and Laredo, I think they did some good work here. I hope we see more of both of them. Taurus got a new entrance team, I think, which looks pretty cool. He's seemingly no longer... The K is seemingly no longer a thing, which is, I think, for the best, because like the first week that it's kind of at its end, both Steve and Taurus are more interesting than they have been in months. So hopefully they keep up the momentum with them. I'm assuming Samuray Del Sol versus Leo Rush is a future matchup for the X Division Championship, which would be really, really fun. I hope Samuray Del Sol sticks around because he would be a great addition to the X Division. And yeah, this match is really known for its post-match more than anything, which is the return of PCO. PCO return, looking as goofy as ever with the orange, like it looks like an orange tan. But I think it was supposed to be because he was burnt alive. And he chases Bully Ray out the arena. Bully Ray starts like complaining to himself where a cameraman films him. I guess he was like running after him or something, the invisible cameraman. And gets into a car, runs away. Bully Ray lives to fight another day. PCO is back. Good to see PCO back. I think PCO versus Bully Ray could be a really fun, like, hardcore match, for example. Bully Ray, I will say this. People complain about Bully Ray a lot, and I get it, but I feel like Impact used him pretty well. Other than the Tommy Dreamer stuff, he's always used in small quantities in the ring. He's a great character, and the matches he has are, like, built to protect his, like, in-ring flaws, where it's like these chaos, like it's really built to protect him, to highlight his positives. He just has these like chaos matches like he had with Josh Alexander, like he's probably gonna have with PCO, or just Carnage. Someone look up the average age for PCO versus Bully Ray though, because that has to be nearing 100 or maybe at 100, so I don't know about that, but hey, I mean, solid stuff overall, really solid episode of Impact. I would say the highlight of the show was Kushida and Mike Bailey and the opener. There was too much cheating, too much interference, like the match and the main event was quite out of place. When it comes to PCO returning, I feel like Bully Ray versus PCO could be a fun storyline. But at the same time, it could be a really boring one. So it's like, it kind of treads that. I mean, not boring, because PCO's character can never be boring. But it's either going to be good or bad. Like, there's no in between. I think it will be good. I'm a fan of PCO, and Bully Ray is a great character. When it comes to the match, I feel like they could have like chaos. Maybe Bully Ray just absolutely brutalizes PCO Steve Macklin style. So yeah, I feel like this could be some fun stuff. if I were to rate the episode, I'd have to give it a 7. Like, really fun in-ring action. The story's developed pretty well. They move everything along. And they're just building up to Impact 1000, Victory Road, Emergence, and all of their big shows. I'm excited to see what's next. I'm excited to see who faces Sonata, for example, when he comes into the company. So yeah, this episode, I guess a thumbs up from me. But what did you guys think of it? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Cosk. Thank you for joining me. Like and subscribe for more.